This program on investing under Regulation Crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we are really going to have an important discussion today, but I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I especially want to recognize, acknowledge, and thank the new viewers. We get a few new viewers every week. The audience, we see it in the data, is growing, and we're so grateful. I invite you to stick around, watch this whole episode, and come back. We air new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, and can't wait to see you again. Today, I've got two special guests with me, and we're going to do something very unusual today. This is a very special episode. So if this is your first outing, know this is a little bit different from the norm, but also one of the more important episodes we'll share. I've got Levi Brackman, the CEO of Invone, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal, and also Brian Christie with me. He is he's the co-chair of the Crowdfunding Professional Association. And I am just thrilled to have you both here with us today. We're going to be talking about a coalition led by the Crowdfunding Professional Association to support a tax credit. I wonder, Brian, if you would just take a minute and explain what this tax credit is and how it works.
Sure, happy to, Devin. As many people are familiar with, crowdfunding has been evolving, but the last major changes that happened in crowdfunding were 2021. And so the community of individuals that are involved with crowdfunding, there's been a coalition that's been created to support a tax credit that will go to those people who invest in a company using Reg CF, the Reg CF exemption under crowdfunding. And the way this tax credit works is that you get half of the dollars that you've invested as a credit, so up to $1,000 cap, meaning that if you invest $2,000 into one or multiple companies, whatever the aggregate amount that you invest in a particular year is $2,000, you get $1,000 tax credit on that particular year that you're filing.
That really is a wonderful thing, because hundreds of thousands of people are already doing this, but millions could, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been, since inception of crowdfunding, there have been a couple million people who have invested. But for those of us who are in the industry, we feel that we've only scratched the surface. And one of the challenges is that a lot of people don't know about the opportunity to invest in crowdfunding. So if all of a sudden it shows up on your annual tax filings and you have a chance to get a deduction, then a lot of people will learn about it very quickly.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, Levi, why do you support this? You've been a really active member of the coalition. What excites you about this tax credit?
Well, first, Devin, thank you so much for having me on your show. When I found out about this, I just saw the potential in so many areas. So first of all, just for small businesses, I know myself as a small business, capital formation is really, really difficult. And for those who don't know what capital formation is, it means being able to raise money for your business. In the olden days, you had a local bank and you got to know the local bank manager. There's a guy who I do a little bit of business with, and he's in his 70s, and he was explaining to me how he got into business. He worked as a mechanic's help at the local mechanic shop, and he showed up on time every single day, and he was reliable. And the guy who owned the mechanic shop was good friends with the bank manager, and he recommended him and said, this guy's reliable, and he was able to get a loan, and he was able to start his business. And voila, he's 75 years old, and he's made a lot of money. In the olden days, that's how it worked. Today, show up at a Chase Bank and ask the bank managers to do something. It's not how it works anymore. So how do small businesses actually get money to start? Well, the Jobs Act allowed one to raise money through crowdfunding. And as Brian said, that has worked to a degree. But you're talking about a country as big as the United States and only a couple million people who've taken advantage to invest in it. It's obviously in its infancy, and it has a huge amount of runway ahead of it to go. And there's no reason why that number shouldn't be 50, 60, 70 million people investing in small businesses. Can you imagine what would happen if you had that amount of people? Just $500, just $500, 50 million people a year, the kind of money which would be going back into the economy, the kind of jobs that would be created would be it would be massive. So I'm really excited from that perspective. I'm also, very, very bullish on crowdfunding in general. So, obviously I'm the CEO and founder of a funding portal, but I think that the internet has become this huge democratizer of everything, of knowledge, of news, of everything basically. The only thing which hasn't yet really democratized in a big way is investing in small businesses. You have these companies which have become massive, and the people who made the most money on that are the venture capitalists. Now, I know that trickles down because most people have a retirement account, and that there's money in the retirement account, which is probably in a mutual fund somewhere, or somewhere is invested in alternatives. But the idea of the average person to go and be able to invest in different companies and be able to get much larger returns isn't really there yet. That was part of the vision of crowdfunding. And I think this would just, as Brian said, this would just accelerate that ability for the average person to be able to, be a part of that economy. And so it's really, really exciting. And having the federal government kind of incentivize it, the way it incentivizes other things would be the right thing to do, I think, for the government.
I think you're right. Brian, tell us about the coalition. Who else besides Levi is in the coalition with the Crowdfunding Professional Association?
Yeah, so it's really a broad coalition, Devin. In the crowdfunding industry, in order to do an investment, these investments have to be made through what's called an intermediary, a crowdfunding portal or broker-dealer. And so that's sort of been our starting point. A lot of these organizations, like Levi's is a crowdfunding portal, but there are others, one's called Start Engine, others called Dealmaker, Climatize, Republic, Small Change. These are just names of different portals that often have different focus, but they're the ones who are the intermediaries. So they're a big part of the coalition, but it's not just the portals. It's also accountants, it's lawyers, it's marketing firms. We have investors. It's really a broad coalition because there's so many people who truly believe in the potential and power of regulation crowdfunding that we found a very broad swath of individuals have joined. And what's also nice about it, it's not just a broad swath of industry participants, it's people across the political spectrum as well. So the original Jobs Act got a lot of bipartisan support, and we expect that this particular initiative is going to get similar sort of broad support.
Levi, I wonder if you would comment on the economics of the tax credit itself. I know that there are many people who, for a variety of reasons, might have anxiety about the idea of a tax credit. Some may be anxious about the fact that this helps businesses. Others may be concerned that it helps rich people. And other people may be just concerned about the impact on the deficit. How would you address those kinds of concerns as you think about this tax initiative?
As a libertarian, or I'm not saying I'm part of the Libertarian Party at all, which I'm not, but as a person who feels that kind of ethos, I don't like government really kind of putting his finger on anything. However, one has seen how the government has been able to incentivize certain behaviors through the tax code very, very successfully. For example, charity. Now, the United States is the number 3rd most charitable country in the world. And I think that's a very proud thing. We should be very proud of that. The people in the United States are charitable, kind, and generous with their money, time, and resources. So I think that is something we should be proud of. And I think that the way the tax credits have worked, or tax deduction has worked, because if you give money to charity, is an example of incentivizing that kind of behavior. So it's the government really incentivizing through the tax code. It's not really the government giving handouts. It's the government incentivizing a type of behavior, which I think is the way it should be looked at. Not through giving money out, but through taxing less. And I think, for example, if you invest in real estate, there are certain tax benefits you get from buying real estate, because the government wants to incentivize people to build apartments and build housing for people. So, and then to invest in that housing and then offer housing to people who need it. These are all things which have been incentivized through the tax code. Another example is having children, right? You have the child tax credit. So it is good for society to have children. So one of the ways the government shows that it supports that is through a tax credit. So I think this is quite normal in the United States, that the way the government incentivizes people is through the tax code. And that comes from the things that society values. Society values housing, society values children, our society values charity. Our society should value investing in small businesses. And it is the drive of the economy. We all know that. Speak to any congressman, any senator, they all tell you, it would be political suicide to say you don't support small business in the United States. It is part of our ethos as Americans that we support small business. So it should be enshrined in as an incentive in the tax code. It just should be. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. I think before we had Reg CF, I think at that point, how would you do it? How would you put it in the tax code to have the average person invest in small business? There was no vehicle for it. But now that you have Reg CF, which is, you can only raise up to $5 million a year. So no really big company is going to use it to raise money. It has to be a small business which is going to use it to raise money. So we have that vehicle. All that's left to do is to enshrine in the tax code, to incentivize people to do it. And I think it's going to more than pay for itself, because the amount of people will take advantage of this and will invest in small business, which will be a multiplier for the economy in terms of jobs and economic growth, will be massive. And, I'm nice against things I'm excited about, but I can't see any other thing which could be greater for the economy than this. That's what I'm so excited about.
That's great. Brian, I want to come back to you and just drive home maybe one last point. You've done some work, a little bit of preliminary work, trying to figure out how the congressional committee that determines how this would be scored might be scored. What the analysis you've done preliminarily, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so it's not just our analysis. Because crowdfunding is an industry that's been around for a while, there are firms that do a lot of analytics and have done research on the data that relates to the number of firms that are out there, the impact they have. Small businesses, when they get money, they spend it and they hire people, and it recycles in the economy very quickly. So some of our preliminary analysis, when we're looking at the dynamic scoring of this, there's a ripple effect of 6x or more that happens when a dollar goes into the economy. So when you think about what that potential net impact is back to the Treasury by an expanded tax base, by more people, those dollars circulating through the economy multiple times, we expect that a bill like this, as we proposed, would provide a net surplus to the Treasury of about $8 billion a year. So over 10 years, that's $80 billion. So a program like this not only pays for itself, it provides a surplus back to the Treasury for other programs. And so that we're very excited by that aspect of this kind of incentive.
And I just mentioned that's unlike if you invest in the stock market, where you're basically just buying stocks from somebody else. Here, if you invest in a small business this way, it goes directly to the small business.
Yeah, and then great reminder. Well, listen, we've got to take a quick break here, but folks, we're going to continue this discussion. In fact, we're going to shift this just a little bit. We'll be back with Brian Christie, co-chair of the Crowdfunding Professional Association, and Levi Brackman, who is the CEO of Invone. We'll be talking about, when we come back, how you can join and support this coalition to help make this tax credit happen, because it may not happen without your help. So stick around.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding, the book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
"This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference."
Scan the QR code to get your copy.
Ready to take your small business to the next level? Honeycomb Credit empowers diverse entrepreneurs by connecting you with community-driven funding. Build customer relationships, amplify your brand, and grow with those who believe in you. Honeycomb Credit, where your community invests in you.
Scan the QR code to start today.
Join the Impact Crowdfunding movement. Get Superpowers for Good, your free daily newsletter with exclusive video replays, a podcast, and the latest investment opportunities open to everyone. Join the super crowd. Scan now so you can learn to make money while you make a difference.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Superpowers for Good show from the Super Crowd. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we do have a great show for you today. We're about halfway through. We've got Levi Brackman, the CEO of Invone, along with Brian Christie, the co-chair of the Crowdfunding Professional Association. We're talking about a tax credit proposal from the sponsored sort of by the Crowdfunding Professional Association, but organized by and supported by a broad coalition of related parties. Brian, why don't you walk us through basically how someone can join the coalition? If someone is an entrepreneur, and who else might be eligible to join the coalition? And what does it cost to join the coalition? Give us the basics.
Yeah, so at this point, it's free to join the coalition. Anyone who just has really some time and energy to get behind and support it can sign up. This is sort of to the ethos of crowdfunding, that you do what you can to be a part of the bigger movement. But right now, we've set up a website. There's a web address you can go to, because this is the Coalition for Crowdfunding American Jobs and Prosperity. That's the name of the broader coalition. And the website is ccajp.us/join. And so I think it might even be scrolling on the screens here. And so that's where you can go and sign a form that basically says you want to be a part of it. If you're part of an organization or a company, you can add your logo. But the point is that we want to have hundreds, if not thousands, of organizations that are part of the coalition. Now, once you've joined the coalition, for those people who want to do more than just contribute their name, we have a number of things. You can reach out to your legislators, because really this is something that's going to be determined by the folks on the Hill in terms of whether or not they want to include this in the next tax bill. So the tax bill that was passed in 2017 by President Trump is going to expire, and folks on the Hill are going to extend it in one form or the other. And so this is something that we want included in that bill, or as a standalone bill. It could be a standalone as well, but we expect it will probably be included. So we need people to help us and to reach out to their House members, folks in the Senate, to say that this is important to them, that they would like to see this happen. And we're calling this, as sort of a moniker, the name, the Targeting Resources to Unleash Market Prosperity. And that, in short, the acronym is TRUMP. So we're calling it the Trump Jobs Act. So if you were to call to your legislators, you say, I want this Trump Jobs Act. I'd like to see you support and get behind it. So that's the first thing that would be very helpful. Second, in terms of just reaching out and making people more aware of it, share it with your friends, your family, other influencers. That's important. But then what's also helpful is if you could write a letter to the editor or write a blog, share that on social media. We will have, once you've joined the coalition, we have templates that you can use just to give you an idea of things that maybe, but you really have to write from your own experience and explain why you think this is meaningful and how this would be helpful. We will have a donations button on the site. So people who want to donate a little money and don't have time, but you have some money to donate to the cause, you can do that. And we will use that for targeted spends on social media, targeted spends really to get the word out as well. So those are some things that people who want to get behind this and see the benefit can do to join the coalition.
Levi, you have done a fabulous job as a member myself of the coalition, having signed on personally to volunteer and as a co-chair with Brian of the CFPA, and as you know, I've signed on the Impact Cherub Club, where we're angel investors and we're signed on to support. And I've signed on to, as a supporter from the Superpowers for Good show and the Super Crowd. We're all supporting. But you've been doing a tremendous job of reaching out to people on the Hill. I wonder if you would, from your experience now, share some advice for how people who may be new to the coalition or wanting to join now could actually go about reaching out to their representatives, their senators, to get attention on this bill.
It's just picking up the phone and calling, getting the name of the person you want to speak to, and then not giving up. And it's the same thing which makes someone successful in anything in life. It's about just persistence. And if you care about it, and I found myself really caring about this. This was your ideas or someone else's ideas, certainly not my own, but it doesn't matter. I see this as something very, very powerful and something that ought to happen. So if you agree with us, that this is something that ought to happen and that will have a big impact, and you want to be part of something which will be impactful. That's the other thing, right? We all want to do something which is impactful. I think that this is going to be very, very impactful for millions of people on both sides of this, and for the economy as a whole. And therefore, I always want to be a part of something very impactful, and I'm motivated by that. So just pick up the phone and call, ask people if they know anyone who's on the Hill or a staffer, and just start talking about it. All I've done is really cold called. I don't have friends. I used to have friends, but none of those people are in Congress anymore. So I don't really have friends who are currently in Congress, but it's remarkable. You just pick up the phone and talk to the office, and usually you can get through to someone quite influential quite quickly, and then have that conversation.
It's a great tip. It's a great tip, and I really appreciate you sharing that. It's a reminder that the keys sometimes are pretty basic, but a little bit of persistence goes a long way in this effort. Brian, I think the Crowdfunding Professional Association has put together for coalition members a toolkit. Tell us about some of the things that are in that toolkit to help people who are interested in doing more do it.
Well, again, as I mentioned before, a lot of it's just based on having templates and some ideas and some guidance for people on how to write an appropriate blog, how to write an appropriate letter. The whole thing fits nicely and aligns with the mission of the CFPA. As an organization, we really have three things. We're trying to educate, we're trying to advance, and we're trying to advocate. Those are sort of three areas that are our focus. And this type of initiative and effort does sort of all three. Because one, just by mere existence, a tax credit will educate a lot of people about the crowdfunding industry by channeling more funds to these small businesses and giving. And I'd say Levi's done a great job of talking about the impact of small businesses, which is going to be phenomenal. But it's also an opportunity for individuals to learn how to invest and to create some wealth building opportunities for themselves. I mean, we live in a country where we give extraordinary sort of incentives and for hedge fund managers who are managing other people's money to allow them to have capital gains treatment of their profits. Whereas individuals who are putting at risk their own money, and again, they have skin in the game because they are not getting a full tax credit, they're getting a partial tax credit from the investment. But for individuals who are putting at risk their own money, this is really something that gives them a chance to benefit as well, and to de-risk a little bit their own efforts in that. So we think that it's very worthy. Again, the toolkit's going to have a lot of different things and that people can access that enables them to really get involved.
And when you sign up at ccajp.us/join, you'll get an invitation to use that toolkit.
Correct.
It'll be right in there, so you can sign up today. You'll instantly get access to the toolkit and be able to start doing it. I want to thank Levi, Brian, thank you both for joining me for this conversation today. This was such an important conversation. Again, I want to reiterate to everyone who's watching that you can join the coalition, and everyone is welcome to join at ccajp.us/join. This is a movement, a grassroots movement, and we need the help of everyone to get this done. With that, let me just say, as I always do, let's do some good.